This free tutorial is just for people who are trying to transfer files between different Maya versions. So some of you may have a commercial license in an earlier version of Maya and may be also wanting to use those files in the later version. So what I'm doing is simply drawing a comparison between a commercial version of Maya 2009 and the free student version, which is Maya 2013. So the basic rigging menu sets, as you will see, if you're going to, for example, export rigs between versions, or export them out into different file formats such as FBX or DAE, you can see the menu sets are completely the same, so that will not cause too many issues. So this is if you are creating a basic rig from scratch. So the first thing we need to do is let me just create some joints. Let's just create the absolute basic menu set. So I'm just going to move these menus down here without causing too much confusion. So let's just double click on our joint tool. Now in 2009, in the earlier versions, you can see we have a very simple menu set, but in the 2011, 2013 and also probably 2014 versions, they've expanded the menu set, but they haven't changed it. So what that means is, if I double click on the joint tool, you can see that instead of opening up on the right hand side, it now opens up on the left hand side, and you can see we've got the degrees of freedom are the same, but what they've done is expanded out the orient joint menu set. Whereas before we looked at this and you had XYZ, YZX, all of those, they've actually just broken those down so you can have different combinations. So if you were to select, you wanted just to manually orient your joints, you could simply click on None to orient the joints in the secondary axis, or if you preferred, you could simply orient joint to world, just to make life a lot easier. All the other menu sets there are exactly the same. So creating joints is exactly the same as when you're creating joints within Maya 2009. I can't see any difference there. Nope. And then let's look at the IK handles. So IK handle menu is exactly the same. There is no difference with the IK menu set, so that's absolutely fine. Now, where you do start to get differences is, for example, in things like the Hypershade. In some of our tutorials, we use the color blend node to create IKFK switches on completely built custom rigs. So let's just open up the Hypershade. Now, in Maya 2009, you got a choice of selecting create all nodes, and you were able to differentiate between Maya and mental ray nodes. However, in 2013, if we open up the Hypershade, you don't get that. You've simply got crate and bins. All of them have been combined together. So in order to find, let's say, nodes that you had difficulty, that you couldn't find in 2013, but apparently quite easy to find in 2009 or earlier versions, simply just type in the node, because they've added in a search box in the later version. So let's say color blend. There you go. Finds it for us. So they've added in this search tool, which is really easy to use. So anything that's missing, if you're doing work from an earlier tutorial or an earlier version, you can always still find the old basic nodes there. So that's not going to cause any issues when it comes to exporting. Now, let's move on to our modify menu set. As you can see, modify menu set is pretty much the same as it is in Maya. There's absolutely no real difference. You've got the transform, rotate, freeze. Yeah, exactly the same. So we can simply close that down. That's not going to cause any problems. Animate. Now, this may cause some differences. You've got set key, set breakdown, hold current key, set driven key. You've got atom. Now, this now enables us to export animation, import animations. You've got create clips. So this is, when we come to do animations, things may change between the versions. However, like I said, for a basic dry rig, there's no real change. So as long as we can create set driven keys, as long as we can, key different poses, different stages, will be fine. So that's not too great a difficulty. Constrain. Constrain is slightly different again, because in constrain you can now click on point to poly, so you can actually constrain your rig to the polygon itself, which is quite good, which is quite cool, and may actually cause a bit of a problem when you're exporting between versions. You may actually have to bake your animation before you export. However, for a rig, it's an optional tool. We can learn how to use it at a later date, but for purposes of rigging you don't actually necessarily need it. Skeleton menu set is exactly the same. There isn't much change there. You've got human IK, which is new, and you've got joint labeling as well. You've got joint labeling, full body IK, so full body IK has gone to human IK, right? But all the basic tools remain the same, which is absolutely fine for the total beginner who's trying to figure out how to rig their first character. And then there's skin. The bind skin, absolutely fine, same, no difference. So when it comes to rigging a very basic character in Maya and trying to open up an older version in a newer version, or switching it, making a newer version in an older version, there's not going to cause too many issues. So that's okay. There are some differences, but we will go into those later. So for the basics, there is no need or worry about transferring files.